North constituency, quite unfortunately, but many of the security analysts who've been watching how things are played out in that constituency ahead of today are not surprised about how things are playing out. Fundamental question is what the police has been doing. What's the security strategy to address this? Because we are getting into a very sensitive period right now in the election in Ablekuma North. We're just 2 minutes away from polls officially closing. But then again, that will depend on how many people are in the queue as of 5 p.m. But this is a period, a crucial one for security, because we've seen a lot of violence characterize the coalition and also the declaration.
I was out for every do a new alcohol. Now, every say a bit the next year, yeah, echo so and a day, I will have it's no yeah, barbershop, results and up them, yeah, barbershop, why they didn't win, now why they didn't win. Every time you call strong good, and what now almost to me, it's you with the city, and that's the end this summer no call at Jeffrey. Send this for different people in some and now you power parliament and a man is had the end of your corner and friend in former parliament what yet will be to make Casa Okasa as a don't talk because Okasa Makana and Cobebia. It's a chef say NBC for Etimi and your power and now say and your corner Etimi and your power. Now we shall for no say we are for TV ya Babet Snassi then they are the results in also bro when the guarding you by the candy over the shed the air cost ever look one of say I am Madame Piercy and now some Madame Ramna Etili and the Liniana Nina Benyanina and Chebia every time this is for being a share link say you are for can't see the boy ya bad and the results and so and the air bab and people among your connecting Kunima and I send this for Sunday Kunimina no be a baby no there's no say NDC to be do Kunimudia and Koye Parliament because you see a parliament what the and ya crack wherever come on there and agency Tiabu Pibo and yet we implement your Koni party and your bomb because I'm a panning Nadia Shadow and Yama Kona. It seems simple for our map one time man vote to say now was say Omuyeno. It's no question say or one say and people for strong votes. Now so what's a man for a bad one to be vote. Now can say oh wait you strong vote to be party and your friend them I say stone now or went to me am one time man vote and no 18 say NPP for or my winning and as for me so we share call now you call share their air so Ablekuma North.
Really commend the police officials because they really did everything possible to ensure that the individuals wouldn't make their way to where the voting process is happening to disrupt the whole process, if I should say. My name is Gordon Asiba reporting from Ablekuma North, and as and when things unfold, we'll definitely be bringing you updates. You can clearly hear the snouts and also other vehicles that are being sent in due to what police officials are picking on grounds here. When you head towards where the whole process is ongoing, you will see that a lot of people have come to the premises, some who don't really look peaceful, if I should say. The police has also been smart enough to send some of their officials there who have barricaded the entire center where the whole voting process is ongoing. It's few minutes to 5 where voting will be ending and counting is going to begin as soon as possible. So all the officials who were here to ensure that everything is being brought as a standstill have all been deployed to the exact center where the exercise is taking place to ensure that when counting begins, things wouldn't get out of hand. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye. We have our cameras dotted at all corners to ensure that we don't get to miss anything that happens here when counting begins. And my name is Gordon Asiba, station here to definitely bring you up to speed with all the happenings here in Ablekuma North.
And Godwin, appreciate you for this very important update there. Godwin Asediba is in the Ablekuma North constituency, specifically the Church of Pentecost. That is the Church of Pentecost, Odoko, North Odoko polling station 2, where we witnessed some confrontation between a group of young people in the community and the police personnel who had been deployed there. The situation has been brought under control. Calm has been restored. Polls have officially closed. It's just some 2 minutes after 5 p.m. as we speak right now. So polls have officially closed. We're expecting the sorting to take place and then the collation and then eventually the declaration. This is a crucial period in this election exercise where we normally would see some chaos or violence characterizes 3 phases after 5 p.m. The sorting, the collation, and the eventual declaration. You recall, there had been a declaration in this constituency. Rabna Obin was declared, but the Electoral Commission nullified that declaration because they assessed the videos and all of that situation that characterized the period of the declaration. They say that their returning officer declared a Rabna Obin MP-elect on the 9th of December 2024 under duress. So they didn't recognize that. Today, there is another opportunity for them to do this. Fundamental question is if the security strategy in place would ensure that this takes place, especially because of the violence and the chaos that we've seen right from morning up until now. And Kemini, this is why I bring you in on this conversation, as now that we've seen polls officially close and how this security concern is going to play out for the next hours ahead of us.
Indeed. Let me take that conversation straight to Zoom. Professor Enoch Enchik has been quiet for a little bit. Prof, I'll take your thoughts first on the situation at the Pentecost Church polling station in North Odoko, where we understand that some military deployment was done to keep the situation. Let's give it a bit of context, because the defense minister early on had, mentioned that we wouldn't deploy military until we felt the need to do so if the police couldn't handle the situation. Do we then digest this as the police failed in their duty at that particular police station?
It appears so. Thank you once again. It appears so that the police needed reinforcement because the numbers there were not enough to deter individuals who were trying to be violent or deviant at the polling stations. So all over the world that is done. When the situation escalates, we bring the military in to calm matters. So I think that was in order. But I will talk quickly about what happened in Parliament, because Alfred went there to Parliament with the Minister of Defense talking about the presidential jet, and then end with the violence because the election finally has ended. So we are waiting for the sorting, collation, declaration of the winner, and then there will be peace in the neighborhood. All those who came to Ablekuma to make noise and cause commotion are going back. And I began by saying that violence is always local because the local people know each other. So if you involve yourself into violence, they know you. And some people might come after you after the visitors who came in there to campaign have left. That is why it is not good for anybody in the local area to involve yourself in this kind of violence. See, the problem we have in Africa is that if you look at Ibrahim Traore, he's been there for just 2.5 years, just over 2 years. And Air Burkina is the only independent airline in the region, sub-region now. 10 airlines for Burkina Faso. And Ghana, we are struggling with one for even our presidents. This is a really sad situation for me. I think that we need to do more. Before His Excellency John Dramani Mahama leave office, I want to see Ghana always coming back. With the gold board, the money that we are making, we should be able to have our own airlines and eat our own foods when we are traveling to other countries. It is our identity. If Burkina have been able to get 10 airlines independently funded from their own country, why can't Ghana do the same? We have more resources than Burkina Faso. So I'm urging the government to look at that area because it does not befit our status as a country that our president don't even have a befitting airline that he can use to travel all over the world to champion the cause of our country, Ghana, the country that we all love. Now, having said that, the stars of this election wasn't Hawa Koomson or any other person, but it was a Free and then a Rabna Obin. if you look at what has happened there, there are a lot of causations, there are a lot of correlations, there are a lot of relationships. The problem started with the Electoral Commission. I'm glad that both political parties have seen the Electoral Commission to be unfit for its purpose. Because look at what happened at Ablekuma. The same thing happened at Akwetia. The same thing happened at Begro. The same thing happened at Nsawam. Some are even still at the court. As at now, it took a long time for them to even declare the presidential final results. When we had problems with the parliamentary, the presidential was done and dusted. And yet we didn't have the final figures. So if you look at what is going on with the Electoral Commission, what happened at Ablekuma North? Radnobin, yes, she was declared, and people said that she shouldn't have even come back to the declaration because she was declared already. But when she came back and whatever happened, and then we saw that pink sheets were missing, and some came in with their phone and said that we have copies of the results from the pink sheets. They showed the soft copy. They asked them to show the hard copies, and the returning officers could not show the hard copies. So you can't go and buy Welche with a soft copy of 20 or 200 Ghana cedis note and say that I have the soft copy here, so I'm going to use it to buy Welche. You need the hard copy of the money. So we never had the hard copies. Then the same Electoral Commission went to Parliament and said that, no, we are not going to rerun. And then turned around to say that we are going to run. Then MPP said that we are not going to contest. Now, behind they were contesting because monies were given. We realized that a former vice presidential candidate gave some money. And people were there, including Hawa Koomson, campaigning. If you go to a campaign ground, a polling station with a pepper spray in your pocket, that is intentional. That is intentional, meaning you are ready for any violence. So all these things, you see, we as a Ghanaians, we need that peaceful country, but we cannot allow our democracy to be a mirage. And if you don't take care about some of these pockets of violence, it will degenerate into something extremely violent that one day we cannot stand. And that is why we all have to guard against this. I've heard some people saying that because it is profitable to have violence during elections, that is why a lot of people are engaged in these attacks and fighting and other things. We should not make it profitable. Violence should not be made profitable in our young democracy because we are too young in our democracy. We picked democracy from other countries. And the way things are going, we need to stop this violence because this is just rerun. We are going to have by-elections. What will happen if we have other elections again? We have to stop this now.
I see. Professor Nchi, just hang in there a little bit for us. I'll move on to Professor Sapon now. Prof, it is almost ironic that we are seeing the military on the ground. And I say this because in the 2024 election, when the NDC was in opposition, they had vehemently disagreed with having the military on the ground. That's whatever was happening. How do you feel about the situation today?
Well, I think the military is part of our security architecture. And the arrangement has always been that if there is a challenge with the police, they come in to give some support. And so military presence in our elections shouldn't be new, shouldn't be something that we wouldn't welcome. And clearly, as we saw from morning to even recent one, we can see that the police may need some support. And most importantly, around this time, when polling is closing, counting will begin, declaration and all those things, I seriously was going to recommend that military moves in. And I was personally glad when I heard from your reporters that military have started moving in. After all, the signs are on the wall. And if the military doesn't come in with some extra force or support, these guys we are seeing there who are pushing policemen as we saw, and I mean, do not even care uniform men's presence, would misbehave if the military doesn't come in. So for me, it is timely. And it was supposed to be the case in 2024 election, irrespective of political parties and how they rejected that suggestion. And you and I know that, well, depending on where you sit, if you sit in opposition, you see men in uniform as agents of the one in government. And if you are in government, you see the men in uniform as working for you. But on some isolated cases, we have seen men in uniform, I mean, working for the general good, not necessarily for the government in power. And we want to plead with those who have been sent to go and give support to the police, to go and act in the general good of all of us. So as for last year and the reaction of politicians to the involvement of military, you and I knew that it was largely politics. And the idea that when somebody is in opposition, he doesn't trust men in uniform, he thinks they may be working in favor of the one in government. And today, NDC is in government. I'm not sure they would have any problem with any man in uniform because their mind tells them that the people in uniform will be working for them. But that is the politics. But sincerely, right here on the grounds, as we can see, if we don't get military involvement, I'm sure things are likely to degenerate. And the little signs on the wall suggest to all of us that we really need them now. It's 5 o'clock.
I see.
And they must take possession of those areas to secure the votes of the people.
Very well, Prof. Let's come back in studio, and I'll take the opportunity to reintroduce my guest. To my very far right is Hamza Suhini. He's a lawyer and speaks for the NDC. And in the middle with us now is Ebenezer Nimako Nyako. As you can see, Mr. Musa Danko has taken leave of us, but Ebenezer is a data analyst. He's also a founder of EN Analytics. And then next to me is Richard Kumado, who's a security expert. Richard, which is where I come in with you, right? I know Hamza thought I was coming to him, but let me deal with you first, right? It would appear there is some level of agreement with the presence of the military at the North Odoko polling station, the Pentecost Church polling station number 2. You are a security person. Is this a good precedence we are setting?
If you go back to 2024, largely the elections were manned by the Ghana Police Service. There were isolated cases where you have few military officers here and there. I don't know the security reason why the military were deployed to that particular police station. But I am confident that the police have what it takes to man this particular election and to do what is right. What I suspect is that at the Coalition Center, because that became a reason why we are having the rerun today, you will see some level of military officers around, and you are also likely to see the officers from the National Security Secretariat around to create something like a buffer, because there has to be like 3 buffers around the Coalition Center, where you have to create a room for those with the ballot boxes to get in there, those with the pink sheet to also get in there, then those who have nothing doing there must be stopped from getting in there. But even that, I still believe that the police have what it takes to man this particular election. And I can see the politics in there, but because we are not politicians, what I can say as a professional is that I have so much confidence in the police that we have not even deployed the striking force to this particular election. We have not deployed the striking force. The Buffalo unit, the SWAT team has not been deployed. The counter-terrorism unit has not been deployed. My brother Raymond Adolphine has come from Boko to town. And when Raymond gets to the ground, you will know he has appeared. And I don't think this election is about the capacity of Raymond. And I don't think why people are panicking when it comes to some of these things. What is at stake is that politicians have taken this country for granted, and it is a high time we say to them, take a backstage and let the professionals run the country.
I'm hoping at some point in this our conversation or coverage would get to where we are able to proffer some solutions on how to break that relationship that gives the politicians some leverage over our security services. In the meantime, I'm happy to announce that our correspondents on the ground are reporting that about some 6 polling stations, sorting and counting has begun. I'm sure Alfred and Joseph will take us through the numbers, but we know sorting and counting has begun at the St. John the Baptist polling station, Atiko Methodist Church, where the incident took place earlier today, MTTD Odoko Divisional Police Station, Radiant Way Preparatory School Polling Station, and God First International in Dakuman polling station as well. Church of Pentecost North Odoko number 2 as well. We know that counting is underway there. Again, Alfred and Joseph will bring us the numbers. But Hamza, you know, this situation, I mean, we can talk about the turnaround in events and how the NDC is comfortable today to take people on the ground. But while you take a bite of that, particularly of interest to me, is as counting has begun, how is it looking for you from where you sit?
I think that, first of all, we are hopeful. That is the reason why we decided to go into the election in the first place. But as Democrats, we always know that elections are either going to go your way or go the way of your opponent. So, but we are still hopeful. We are very optimistic. But if at the end of the day, the good people of the Ablekumanov constituency feel otherwise, we would have no option than to respect that verdict. But let me state emphatically that there is no turnaround as far as the NDC's position when it comes to military presence in our democratic process is concerned. What we've always said, even before the 2024 election, was the fact that when it comes to the manning of polling stations, military personnel should not be seen anywhere near these polling stations because their mere presence alone sends wrong signals. But if there is consensus as to their presence at a particular polling station, then all political parties must be consulted and we can take the decision together with the Electoral Commission to ensure that the necessary buttons are pressed for them to be brought to that particular polling station to ensure peace and sanity. So there's no departure. And I know as a matter of fact that at a point in time, the parliamentary candidate of the New Patriotic Party in Ablekumanov was actually the one impressing upon the government to ensure that the military personnel are brought to that particular polling station for, if you like, to sanitize the situation there. So clearly, there's absolutely nothing untoward in terms of the decision to deploy them, and it does not reflect a situation where the NDC appears to be unprincipled when it comes to our position.
I mean, you're saying that you heard our correspondent that the presence of the military not only dispersed the unruly crowd, but essentially everyone who was there dispersed because
absolutely.
The military
so
was
maybe
there.
That is the reason why the parliamentary candidate of the NPP made that call, because she is a candidate, she's contesting in that election, and at that material moment, maybe she felt that the only way to get the crowd to disperse was simply to make a passionate appeal to the security agencies.
You are telling me that it was really because Equiafriye made a call, but not because the NDC wanted to, the NDC government wanted to.
No, the NDC government is not involved directly in this election. What is happening is that the Electoral Commission is the authority mandated in law to provide security as far as this whole process is concerned. So they have interfaced with our military institutions and also to a very large extent the Ghana Police Service to ensure that the polls are protected. So I do not see the need for us to bring in government at this particular point in time. But what we witnessed in the case of Ayahuasca West Wagon went beyond our normal security agencies to the point that we're relying on national security outfit, people who were dressed in uniforms that we never experienced under the 4th Republic. So these raised serious question marks. And that was the reason why the NDC complained in that election. And you see, I don't know why as a republic we take delight in pretending that everything is right when things are not right. It was the main reason why in opposition the NDC complained bitterly about the conduct of security agencies in Ayahuasca West Wagon. Because look, as political parties, we have different layers of support. And so there are many of our supporters out there who may be thinking that the state institutions would not ensure justice considering the number of people who were assaulted as far as electoral violence is concerned, and many also have lost their lives. So if we create that impression that the state is not interested, and anytime there's a change of government, if you are not careful, you are going to have reprisal attacks. That would be outside the control of even the executive at the time. And so we must be, and that was the reason why we complained bitterly about the West Wagon. Because the NDC has presided over elections. When President Mahama presided over the 2016 election, we did not witness things of this nature. But when Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the NPP took over, we went down the drain, and we just didn't stop there. On live TV, party hoodlums who attacked the sanctity of our judiciary, judges had to run for their lives in Kumasi. Many of them ended up being recruited into the national security outfit and our military system and also the Ghana police architecture. So that is where the problem starts. Today, in this country, under the last administration, we had members of parliament, party functionaries, boasting about the number of people they succeeded in getting recruited to our security agencies. And we found nothing wrong with it as political parties. And that is where it starts. That's why you go to the polling station and the police officers are standing there being helpless. Because for all you know, the person they are supposed to put in check is the one who influenced the processes for them to get recruited into the service.
And you think that's,
so let
that's
us
the root
go,
cause?
Yes, let us go to the root causes of some of these things and ensure that when it comes to the recruitment into our security agencies, we do not take it lightly. We saw how it was handled under President Jerry John Rawlings of blessed memory. We saw how it was handled under President John Evans Atta Mills. But you and I know that when the NPP eventually came into office, at a point people were selling jobs for recruitment into the military architecture of this country.
No, but we have also been made to understand, and I haven't heard or seen any contestation from the NDC, that this protocol recruitment is not just the NPP that enjoyed the protocol recruitment. So it is not only because
have you heard any
the Akufo-Addo administration
whether
came into office?
Whether under President Mills, under President Mahama, or under President Jerry Rawlings, have you heard any NDC appointee claiming and boasting that they have recruited people into the Ghana Armed Forces?
We haven't heard boasting. It doesn't mean we never heard stories of protocol.
That is why I'm telling you that sometimes the optics.
And Richard is here, right?
When I was going to the BNI, we were 4,000 that started the process. After 3 years of background checks, they pick only 4 of us under President Rawlings. You don't even need to know President Rawlings. You don't need to know anybody.
So
and that is what makes some of us an asset today to this nation. That is why we cry when we see how they bastardize the BNI with people who have no business being there. Today you go into the police, you have protocol police, political police, and professional police. And you know at the vetting, when a member of the vetting committee said to Omanye Boama that the fact that I grill you doesn't mean that when I come for protocol, don't give it to me. You remember?
Absolutely.
The chairman said, oh, we don't do protocol. They are lying.
But
that's the point Hamza is saying. That's the point Hamza is making, that they must stop it. If you don't stop it, you tie the hands of these boys you see at the gate.
You see, we can, and you see, Kumado, the point also is that let us be honest. We have seen the NDC handle recruitments in the past into Ghana Armed Forces and that of the Ghana Police Service. We've seen it under President Rawlings. We witnessed it under President Mills. We witnessed it under John Dramani Mahama. At no point in time was it a concern about partisan infiltration into these services under these presidents that I've mentioned.
Yeah, that one is true.
That is the reality, but it caught the attention of the Republic. When Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo became president and Dr. Mahamudu became his vice president, and the MPP took over the reins of governance. Because we all saw non-partisan operatives given clearance to infiltrate in, as far as these security agencies are concerned. So let us not pretend that what we are going through is something that was started in under NDC administration. The MPP led us here, and we must situate the blame forcefully. That is why we are at this stage.
I see. Well, when I come back, I want us to reference the case of the Timbila recruitment scandal and how it relates to now. Because, you see, I want us to be clear with what we tell our viewers, but we'll come back to that in the third and speak to Eben as well on the numbers that we are expecting. Alfred, yes. What's going on? So
we have some results coming through. These are results declared by the officers manning the various polling stations as we are here on your election command center monitoring the situation on the ground. This is the Church of Pentecost North Odoko polling station 4. I indicated to you that that Church of Pentecost has a number of polling stations. The chaos and the confrontation we saw between the police officers and the young people that was in the polling station 2. This time we have the results of the Church of Pentecost North Odoko polling station 4. George Queening is our man on the ground. He's connecting with me live right now to give us an update on what's happening there. But just to give you some context and a full picture of the eligible voters at this Church of Pentecost polling station 4, Joseph Akable is going to connect shortly. We'll get you the full, that's the total registered eligible voters in the Church of Pentecost polling station 4, where we understand that the declaration has been made already. Just some few minutes ago, we'll tell you which one of the two, that's either Rabna Obing or Nanekia Free, won this particular this polling station. That is the Church of Pentecost North Odoko 4. Results are trickling in thick and fast right now. And let's go to the polling stations, Joseph, and clearly give us the total of the eligible voters and registered in that polling station shortly. And let's connect to George Quening on the ground. George, tell us what's happening where you are.
The Church of Pentecost North Odoko 2, and the counting is over, and so the results have been declared. So this very polling station, we have 67 total voters, and I want to give you the result as it stands now. So out of the 67 voters, just 33 of them voted, and the MPP had 15 and the NDC had 18. And so the NDC won in this very polling station. And I'd want to engage Ibi Bright, who is a Tema mayor and also NDC parliamentary candidate for the 2024 general elections. And she's been here since morning. She's monitored this very elections. And I'm sure her expectations have been met, I'm sure.
Well, yes. I mean, to a large extent, you know. I still hold that if we had original, results, we wouldn't have had to go through the stress just to prove the same point. So we're glad that it's clear, and then we can all rest. And the people of Ablekuma North will have representation in Parliament, representation that is capable and is how would I say, determined, because she's fought so hard to play that role for them. And so for their sake, we're also determined to support her.
You're just privy to these two polling stations, and so there are more to come. So you cannot just rely on these two and say that it's a victory for the NDC.
Yes, I was primarily responsible for this polling stations, but I've had oversight over a few as well. We have to support each other because you need many more eyes and many legs on the field. So we've done a bit of that. I mean, we have a good network of information, so we're sure about the wind all across the constituency. So we're very confident.
So if you win this, it will be 84 seats in Parliament. You have more than the MPP. Why would you still want to wrestle power with them?
I don't think that representation in Parliament should be relegated to some ego trip about numbers. It's about the individual constituencies that are represented there, and they all deserve service that is optimum. Each and every one of them, whether you were first to go in, whether you've been there for long, whatever it is. I mean, there's nothing like that where representation is. And I think that people need to understand that. NDC representation today is important. And the representation by a capable person is also important. And for me, Ablekuma North couldn't do better than Irabna at this time. And so she must be there for them. It doesn't matter who else is there, they're not there for Ablekuma North. And so for each seat is an individual situation, and it must be looked at like that.
So you monitor it, but there seems to be some sort of voter apathy here, because this very place is 67 and only 33 came out to vote. And so the apathy really came into play this time around.
Well, generally, at times like this, you don't expect turnout to be even better than it was. I think that, yes,
thank you very much, George Quening. At the Church of Pentecost North Odoko, Church of Pentecost North Odoko 4 polling station. That's the results we have. Eligible voters registered for that polling station 67. Out of that, only 33 came out to vote today. And out of that 33, 18 went to Irabna Obin of the NDC, and then 15 to Nanekia Efree of the MPP. So the NDC won this polling station. That is the Church of Pentecost North Odoko 4 with a 3 votes increase difference. Let's go straight to the MTTD, Odoko MTTD polling station 1. Evelyn Tengma is there for us. There's been the sorting, the collation, and declaration as well. Evelyn, tell us what's happening where you are.
Alfred, as you rightly said, the counting is over here at the MTTD polling station here, and out of 113 voters who were expected to cast their ballots here, we had 48 people voting at the end of the polls. And out of this result, we have Irabna Obin of the NDC obtaining 20 votes, while the NPP, Efree had 27 votes. And so the EC official has just announced it, and they are currently sealing the box. where they'll be taking us to the collation center. And so we have a few, of course, supporters who are still hanging around, and of course, they kind of interacting with each other and trying to compare other results from other polling stations to see how their candidates are faring. And we also have a lot of policemen also here who are still here stationed here, and of course, because the ballot box is still here, and so they are still here in their numbers as well. So basically, that is what is happening here, Alfred.
Great detail there, Evelyn. Appreciate you for this. So that is the information from the MTTD, that is the Odoko MTTD polling station 1. The results as declared. Eligible voters registered for that polling station was 113. 113 eligible voters. And guess what? We were talking about the low voter turnout, which the likes of Musa Dankwa predicted ahead of today, that, well, the momentum is down, the motivation to come out to vote is down, but then again, the violence that has characterized this entire process was also a major demotivating factor as well. So we're seeing, just based on the numbers, 48 people out of the 113 valid eligible voters for that polling station came out to vote. And out of the 48, Irabna Obin polled 20. And Nana Ekia Efriye 27, and a sport ballot 1. So that effectively means that Nana Ekia Efriye won this MTTD polling station 1 with 7 vote difference in her, let's say, to working for her in her own good. But then if you strike it and juxtapose what we just put out earlier and what happened at the Church of Pentecost polling station 4, and also what we are seeing now in the MTTD polling station 1, Irabna Obin won with a vote of 3 difference. And then also we're seeing this one with Free winning with a margin of 7. Bear in mind that no doubt this is a constituency the MPP has won over the period. It is their stronghold. The NDC staged a strong comeback, a very, very impressive showing in the 2024 elections. Out of these 19 polling stations up for grabs today, a number of them are that stronghold within the constituency. So in the constituency itself, they are marking off constituency. The MPP has its own stronghold as well. But the 19 polling stations, you find a few of them as well in both MPP and NDC strongholds within the constituencies. So it's not a surprise that we see this results playing out as we're seeing it right now.
Absolutely.
There's some information as well.
And I just want to add also, Alfred, that we also see Ekia Free with a 48-point lead or head start from the 262. So while you're putting that together, let's include that to give the context of how things could be. But Alfred, there's not to see on ground.
There's more. In fact, we're receiving the results flowing in thick and fast right now. Let's go to Noble Crosby Annan, who is of constituency right now. Crosby, tell us where you are and what is happening as we speak.
Well, Alfred, so this is the Ateko polling station. It is one of the 19 polling stations that just ended the entire electoral process here. The expectation was that some 645 electors would come to this polling station to come and vote. But the turnout, I should say, was a little bit on the low. At the end of the entire process, voting and counting, we have a winner, a clear winner, and I'm talking about Madame Ekia. She told 77 votes out of the total votes cast, as well as the NDC candidate one, and 29 out of the votes that were cast. There were no rejected ballots.
that is Naneke Free about 77 of the valid vote cast, and then the NDC Irana Obin 129. This is Article polling station, Article 1 polling station. As we're having it now, in fact, if you look at the registered eligible voters in the Article polling station, it's actually one of the highest that we have been talking about. The Article polling station, the registered voters there, and what to look out for as well. They have 645 eligible voters in the Article polling station, Article School Complex polling station. Out of the 645 eligible voters at the Article polling station, guess what? This is the result as we have it. NPP's Nanek here Free 77. NDC's Irabna Obin 129. If you're adding it up, it's just about just beyond just 300. In fact, as we're saying now, it's a little over 200. As a matter of fact, now 200 out of the 645 eligible voters in the Article School Complex. That is a huge number that did not turn out to vote. So the low voter turnout, as was projected, is playing out strongly, coming as we're saying right now, and at least the 10 polling stations out of the 19 that we have. Stay with us because our dashboard has captured the 10 polling station results out of the 19, and it's showing a very, very interesting picture. But Kemini, they were saying the results as we earlier projected that there was going to be a low voter turnout, and that's been confirmed by the numbers that we are seeing right now. The violence, the demotivating factor, and the fact that today not being really a holiday, people had to still go about their work, and then having to see as well the momentum not being so high as we saw on election day. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook. So for those of you who are driving right now, listening to us on 3FM 92.7, this is your election command center. This is it. The low voter turnout has been confirmed by the numbers, is it not?
Absolutely, indeed. 645, we are seeing only about 260 now. We still have about over 430 who didn't. And I wonder what Eben thinks about that. Eben, will your per your projections, is this expected to be worse as we hear the numbers? Because this 645 Article Complex School Complex polling station is the highest we're seeing amongst the 19 polling stations. And even that, over 400 people didn't turn up.
Yeah, so it is expected. The main reason is that I think the NPP lost the opportunity to really make use of this election. Okay, the reason is that in most advanced countries, when it comes to midterm elections, it is a referendum on the government in power. So this is the time to test whether the anger that was directed against the NPP, how are the populists trying to assimilate or viewing the New Patriotic Party currently. So they should have gone full throttle in this election, campaign seriously, encourage their members, and then test the response. That gives them the opportunity to say, okay, we lost by these margins in 2024. But we have improved. It means that the sentiment against the party is easing, and it gives you the power to plan and then to move forward.
Do you think they missed that opportunity?
They missed that opportunity. Because of that conflicting signals that they send to the electorate. And that is what we are seeing in the outcomes of the turnout. Okay, how do you explain that you are talking about 1/3 averagely? Okay. 30% turnout. It should be within, let's say, within 40% is okay. But when a polling station is doing 30%, it means that the members themselves, those who belong to NPP and those who are members and those who associate themselves, they were not clear on the path that they should take. And so that's what I say that I think the NPP has lost a very big opportunity.
All right, so you expect that the apathy numbers that we are getting, the very low numbers that we are getting, will be worse, right, as we go about receiving the results?
I think it will permeate through the entire
19 polling stations.
Yes, because Irabna just needed to make an average of 3 votes per constituency to win the elections.
Is that the case?
Yes, because the NPP was leading by 48
points. Yes.
And if there are 19, what do we call it, polling stations, on average, if she can make 3 votes per constituency, she wins the elections. And currently, she's doing more than 3 per constituency.
But you see, the flip side of what you are saying is then that the apathy won the NDC the election, which is something they have rejected in the past. Hamza, I'll have you react to that, but let's go over to the other side.
If I can speak 1 minute on the apathy.
On that. Okay.
You see, I think the statement that our members, MPP members, did not come to vote is not entirely true.
Okay.
What it means is that the electorate is expanding. The middle of the electorate is expanding. So it is not in the case where you say there are people who vote for the MPP who are not members of the MPP. And that's the key difference. People vote for the MPP not because they are members of the MPP, but because maybe they like the policies. And so people did not come because now the middle, which is the independent, is expanding. And so they can change at any time. So what it means is that this year they can be with you, the following year they can be with somebody else. And that is what we are witnessing.
So when you say that Irabna needed only 3 votes per polling station to win, it means that this rerun is an easier contest for Irabna than it is for a free.
Definitely. And based on the numbers that are coming in.
And your own projections.
And in fact, my projection was a toss-up. A close call.
I see.
Okay.
A close call in favor of who?
A close call, it was like 50-50.
50-50.
Yes.
I see. Very well. Let's go to the gentleman on the other side now, because we have received results from 11 out of the 19 polling stations. The question is whether or not the projections we are hearing on this side of the studio reflect what we are seeing. Gentlemen, what are we looking at?
As a matter of fact, it may just be the right projections as we're seeing playing out. Because as you indicated, Kemini, we have 11 out of the 19 polling station results here on your election command center. Joseph Akable. Joseph, let's get to the magic wall right now and walk us through exactly how the picture is looking like as we speak.
I mean, people simply want to know who is in the lead at this point in time. Let's just take them directly to that. At this point in time, the NDC is leading by 164 votes. And this is out of 11 out of the 19 polling stations. Just 58% of the polling stations completed so far.
164?
164.
In favor of the
In favor of the NDC. Okay. These are results that we've confirmed from the pink sheets that have been published at the centers where the coalition has taken place. And we have to indicate that in terms of the remaining stations, then 8 remaining stations, the fact of the matter is that the votes totaling out of those 8 stations are far in excess of 164. And so what that tells you is that at this point in time, the NDC candidate is leading by 164 votes, but there are still more votes available. And so if she is to win, it means that the performance she is displaying in the 11 stations, she has to continue with that performance in the other 8 stations.
Absolutely.
Then we expect a victory to take place. On the other hand, if she fails to replicate that same performance, then things could change because it's just a gap of 164. 3 or 4 of those stations, depending on the turnout. And already we know that the turnout is not looking too good. True. And so depending on how the turnout plays out, 3 stations could close down, gap down quickly unless she's able to maintain that performance. And so the updates that we can give to our viewers at this point in time and our listeners on 3FM is that out of 11 polling stations, 11 out of the 19 stations, that is 58% of the results out so far, the NDC candidate, Irabna Obin, is leading by 164 votes.
And it's a very important context you put to the numbers as we're seeing right now, because Irabna Obin came into the contest today with a deficit of 48.
48, yes.
In favor of Naneke Free.
Yes.
Now, she was strong, knowing that she's been a former member of parliament before that. What we're seeing right now, it clearly tells your story. But this 164 votes, with the voter turnout as we have seen right now playing out, it's a fundamental concern that has been raised as to whether there will be enough to overturn and then also have it flipped in her favor. But you see this, that there are so far 281 polling stations as far as we do know, a total of 281. If the numbers we're seeing from this 11 out of the 19, is it anything to go by? We have so far some 273 thereabout polling stations results fully as captured here, with 8 remaining. The 8, we're going to run through the numbers to see the total eligible voters in those 8 the polling stations, and as to how that plays out as well. There's one that has come through right now as well, which is the Godfest polling station in the Ablekuma North constituency. That went in favor of Neke Free. Yeah. But if you're looking at the margins of victory for both candidates, you can understand why Irabena Obeng is saying this increase in her favor of 164. Because let's look at the one that had over 645, about 645 eligible voters.
Yeah, the article school complex. 645. You had just a little over 200 voters turning up, and Irabena Obeng polling over 100 of them, and then Anna just about 77.
In fact, earlier in the day when we did the analysis on the voter turnout, we made a point that it will come down to that voter turnout. The reason being that we know for a fact that whenever by-elections takes place, the voter turnout goes down. We also said that historically, if you do a longer spread from 1992 to 2024, Ablekuma North generally, they tend to do a little better than the national average. So the point that we made is that because it is a stronghold of the NPP, what it means is that if any 10 people vote and the NPP gets 7 and the NDC gets 3, it means that if less than 10 fails to show up, logically you can project soundly that the NPP is likely to lose more than the NDC. And the challenge again, which Kemini and the guests have discussed over and over, has to do with the fact that the NPP has not been consistent on whether they want to participate in this election or not. And that is why we are making the point that with what we've seen so far, the Nanekwe Friye would have to improve her performance in terms of the remaining 8 stations. If she's not able to change the trend and improve her performance and maintains the current performance, then the MPP may have allowed the NDC to make history.
And Joseph, that's why you heard her make the call around 1:30 p.m. when they addressed the press on the chaos that had erupted right from the beginning of the polls till around 1:30 p.m. thereabout. She, after condemning the violence, then went on to call her supporters to come out and vote. Now, at that point, the violence had already happened. The chaos had taken place, which was a demotivation for them to step out to vote. As to whether that call made any significant impact to get her voters or her supporters to come out and vote is one question that the answer would only be given in the next couple of hours ahead of us when we have the full picture of the 8 polling station results left and who is going to win this constituency. Is it Irabena Obeng of the NDC or Nanekwe Friye of the MPP? But for now, as Joseph has just stated clearly, Irabena Obeng is in the lead with 11 polling station results. It's a difference of 164 votes.
And we have to emphasize, very important emphasis is that the outstanding votes from the 8 stations far exceed 164. And so for her path to victory is to repeat the performance that she's displaying in the stations that we've recorded 11 so far. The path to victory for the MPP candidate is she has to perform much better, because the voter turnout, we've seen it already, it's not any significant. And so the turnout is not going to change. What they voted is what they voted. And so the results outcome is what she has to improve in order to change her fortunes.
Let's see. And let's go straight to a conversation right now. And Kemini, this picture also sends a certain signal of how things are going to play out, is it not?
Absolutely. And gentlemen, I was hoping you would tell us which 8 polling stations we are expecting, so that I can start to do the permutations of how this will go, as if I know the numbers. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing that to us. Let me take what you have just revealed to us to Hamza, because his skin is in the game, Hamza. It's looking good for your skin in the game, because our projection is that she's already in 164 lead over the NPP candidate. It must be good news. But listen, they're saying that the path to victory is only if she's able to replicate her performance in the 11 polling stations so far. Is that possible?
It is, because the information I have shows that the NDC can, at this moment, confidently declare that we have won the Ablekuma North elections, because we are done with our coalition. And I can say with all confidence that Ablekuma North too has joined the truth.
I see.
It has turned green. But you see,
those are your projections. We'll wait for the Electoral Commission to make a formal announcement. You know that is the right thing to do.
Yes, I do. But you see, you need to appreciate you need to appreciate the National Democratic Congress that we are dealing with. It is not the NDC of old. We've taken time, at least about 8 years, if you like 16 years, because 8 years with President Mills and Mahama as Vice President, then another 4 years with President Mahama, no, another 8 years in opposition, so in about 16 years. We've taken time to rebuild this political party, to rebrand it. And that was spearheaded by His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama in the last 8 years. So they should not think, especially the NPP, that as a political party, we are still hooked to the old ways of doing things. This is a new party that is determined to ensure that we hold on to power for a very long time. And in doing so, I can assure you that this is not a party that is going to take for granted the confidence of the Ghanaian people. At every step of the way, we would ensure that we place the national interest over and beyond that of our partisan objectives. And that is why we are beginning to see these numbers. And places that were hitherto NPP strongholds, they must get prepared, because we are going beyond the barriers of stronghold as a political party, and we are well positioned to ensuring that we give them the toughest election, even when it comes 2028. The NDC is a party that is built now in line with modern trends, and we are more than convinced that for the NPP to be able to compete effectively with us, then they need to go back to the drawing board and get along with modernity so that we can engage as equals. But as it stands now, they must be, I'm sure, what's the name of their party head office? Where is it located?
The NPP party head office.
Yes, because I know they will be excited, because the General Secretary, I'm pretty much convinced, dreaded an opportunity where, or a situation where the NPP would have won the election, because that would have been the end of his tenure, even before they go to Congress. So you see that kind of confusion that played out, even on the grounds, was largely influenced by the mixed statements that and actions that the NPP manifested since the Electoral Commission announced the decision to run many of these polling stations, specifically the 19 polling stations. Look, I mean, as for us, the numbers are good. We are convinced that the good people of Ablekumanov have given us, once again, another resounding victory. In as much as the turnout is not something we are all proud of, but we went in there, put in our very best, even in the way the election, because the time was very short. But that notwithstanding,
I see.
The NDC has demonstrated once more that it still has the confidence of the Ghanaian people, especially confidence of places that were hitherto strongholds of the New Patriotic Party. And that journey has just begun with the 2024 general election. And we hope and we are committed to ensuring we continue on the trend, even in subsequent elections.
Hamza, I'll say again, the announcement of victory will be made by the Electoral Commission at the end of counting, indeed, and collation today. But also because you mentioned the NPP a lot and made reference to their party head office and the General Secretary, I'm obliged to mention that here at Media General, we continue to create the opportunity for the NPP to have the chance to come in and respond to issues such as this when platforms of this nature are created. It has been the NPP's choice to stay away from our programs, our shows, our news programs as well. But we will continue to create that opportunity. That said, it comes to you, Eben. You thought that this would be a toss-up. Based on our projections here at Media General, it would seem that we have a lead favoring the NDC. But as you heard, Joseph, that it has to be a clear path for Irabna so that at the end of today, we can say that Irabna is the leader. Otherwise, Ekwe is also giving her a run for her money. Is she able to, based on your projections again, is she able to maintain this performance in the rest of the 8 polling stations we are expecting?
Well, I think for now, the projections, the actual projections are the numbers that are coming in. Okay, so as the numbers come in, then you just look at what is the number telling you. And I begin to see that for the NDC, I think they have been able to overturn the deficit. And I think 164, even though it's not that big, the reason why it's a toss-up is that you are looking at a constituency with 121,000 registered voters. So if it comes down to less than 500, when you go to certain districts or regions or states in the US, it's an automatic rerun.
Eben, I'm going to come back to you so you tell us a bit more about the numbers. But I want you to use the projections of the numbers that are coming in so far in your analysis. Alfred, we're hearing of a very disturbing incident.
Rightly so, Kamini. There's been reports of some sporadic shooting ongoing around the Radiant Way polling station. That is information coming through right now. And Portia Gabon is my colleague on the ground right now. That is information we're hearing here on the Oyo Election Command Center. There's been reports of sporadic shooting ongoing around the Radiant Way polling station. Let's cross over there right now, give you a feel of exactly what's happening as we speak. It's a very troubling situation right now, and Portia Gabo, who is on the ground for us in the Radiant Way polling station, is joining us on the telephone. Portia, thank you. First of all, let me establish, I hope you are at a safe location. Hello, Portia. Hello, Portia, can you hear us? And this is a troubling development, as we're seeing playing out at the Radiant Way polling center, where the sporadic gunshots have been recorded. Portia is there for us. Portia, let me establish exact. I hope you are in a safe location where you are at the moment.
Exactly, Alfred. I'm far away from the shooting. I am at the station.
Great. This is refreshing to hear. But tell us exactly what happened. This video that we're just watching right now.
So immediately after voting and then the counting process, all we heard was sporadic gunshots being fired all around, and many people were scared and standing there. It started once again. As I speak to you, I don't know whether they are jubilant supporters or it's just an individual who is just shooting like that. We've seen such of sporadic shooting in the past week, and the harmful effect that it has got. And it's currently ongoing. I cannot establish who is doing this currently, but we are safe at a safe talk as we speak now.
And I still hear it at the background. It hasn't stopped as we speak, correct?
It hasn't stopped that as we speak, Alfred. The person just started and just shoots sporadically. And I'm just wondering why the person is doing that as we speak.
I see. But then any indication of the police personnel deployed at that particular polling station, you know, at least trying to alert or identify this person?
As I speak to you, the location at the Radiant Way station, so they've all left. There's no security personnel here.
That's troubling. And well, just to also now take the opportunity, Portia, appreciate you for this, and please keep safe where you are. And as the Ghana Police Service is watching right now, they have to be alerted of what is happening at the Radiant Way polling station in Ablekuma North. Right now, the sporadic gunshots, and even while Portia Gabo, who is our colleague on the ground, was talking to us on the phone, we could hear clearly on the background the sporadic gunshots. Even though she's far away from the location, we could capture it clearly. And that's what you're seeing right now. And the Ghana Police Service, we understand the personnel who are deployed to the Radiant Way polling station have left their location as we speak. And so that's where the concern is. If the Ghana Police Service is watching us right now, kindly address and respond to this matter as quickly as possible. We've seen, and Kemini, I saw you raise concern about the children in that video we just captured in there, and people running towards this location when others are running away from the location. The security agencies have to be on the ground as we speak, even though we understand that the coalition has ended there, and then also the entire resource put together. Now, but based on what has just happened right now with the sporadic gunshots, which you understand is ongoing as we speak, there's no reason why the police should not be present there, is it not?
And very key is what Portia has said, that it's unclear whether those sounds, first of all, are coming from guns, but they do, of course, sound like, you know, gunshots, right? Mm-hmm. But we haven't been able to establish that as of yet. Our reporter makes that clear. She also makes it clear, Alfred, that we don't know if it's out of jubilation or this is targeted to scare people off. You know, the reasons behind the sounds we are hearing, we don't know. We don't even know if it is a recording on a loudspeaker, but that is what we are reporting. It appears that there are sporadic sounds we suspect are gunshot sounds, guns being shot in the neighborhood where Radiant Way Preparatory School polling station is. Very disturbing. And I'm glad to hear that Portia is safe where she is. Perhaps, Alfred, at this time, I'll bring in Richard Kumado here on what we are picking up on the ground, just before we come back to you, and then you give us some more numbers. Richard, what's your readings into what we're seeing?
We expected it. Knowing what I know, I was expecting something such as that. And I'm also expecting the police to be on alert. And I'm also aware that the police are determined that coalition will be done in an atmosphere of full security. And I wouldn't be surprised if the police multiply the numbers or have a combination of police, military, and the boys from the National Security Secretariat at the coalition center, making sure that we have this coalition once and for all. What is also important is that if people get into these areas and shoot guns, then it's also proper that the Ghana Police Service must get to these places to ensure that there's safety for everybody. But it's a disturbing situation we are facing today.
You know, I wasn't expecting to hear this at the end of the process. Hamza, you're smiling. Are you starting to hear information on what may be going on at this time?
Oh, no, apart from the fact that the coalition processes has ended as far as we are concerned, and the NDC has been declared. But unfortunately, what is going on is condemnable. It is an information we picked up even yesterday when we went to the constituency. We had information as a political party to the effect that the NPP were readying up to do something like this, especially after the declaration, when it is clear.
That is the intelligence.
Yes, that was the intelligence we gathered. But of course, you know that the National Democratic Congress, that clearly is in a comfortable lead, would not
Hamza,
be
why do you put me in the center? I don't know. At this time, we have made clear that we don't even know where
we had an issue with one of the polling stations.
From.
When we had an issue with one of the polling stations, people were quick to conclude that these were NDC people who went to attack Hawa Koomson. Why are we finding it so difficult to accept and agree around this table once again that what is happening now could have only been influenced by the New Patriotic Party? What would be the NDC's interest in disrupting something that they are leading? And like I'm telling you, it is not made up. It was part of the security briefing we had yesterday. And we knew that they were planning something like this. And simply because I don't want to expose your station to many other liabilities is the reason why I'm refraining from even mentioning names of those who made promises to their so-called Blue Army guards to engage in acts in clear violation of our electoral process and also our constitutional provisions. So this is not surprising, but I can assure you that the security agencies are well aware and anticipated something like this.
Right. So,
the most important thing is how to protect the lives of our
Hamza,
citizens who are caught within that particular enclave.
Let's run it back a little bit. I can understand that the NDC may have picked up intelligence, but it's also our duty here, because we haven't verified your intelligence.
Yes.
I cannot allow you to only say that and then leave it as it is.
I respect that.
Which is why we have to draw you back in and remind you that we cannot accept what you're saying until we have verified it.
Yes,
and so that is the information from the NDC, that they picked up whatever intelligence it is unverified information as far as your consumption is concerned, and we should make that clear as
Absolutely.
well. So it's not as though I do not want you to say what you want to say, but I have to do my job and do it well. Can we agree on that?
No, I do not. I don't. In principle, I don't disagree with you. That's the more reason why I said that I do not want to expose you to liabilities, because I'm very careful when it comes to my choice of words, especially in relation to that particular intel that we picked as a political party. But I also owe it a duty to our listeners to let them understand that this is not something that we did not anticipate as a political party, because our intel is solid. And I can assure you that this was anticipated. And we picked that intel. And that is the reason why I'm resisting the temptation of throwing out names.
He's still saying it again.
That's why I'm resisting
Say to him that he picked information and not intelligence.
Unconfirmed.
I thought you have warned him.
It's not information. You see, Kumado, it's not information.
Unconfirmed, right?
But this
as far as we are concerned,
you know
that information
as a matter of fact is that as a political party, we also have our intelligence unit.
Not to say that
we have our intelligence unit. And sometimes if you need to hire even the services of retired police officers or army generals
or FBI
to be of help to you when it comes to the operations of a political party.
So you have your
and I can tell you that this was the intelligence that was picked up by the party. And those who are within that neighborhood, it is important for them to at least find places that are far away from the gunshot. But I can assure them that the police and military are more than able to deal with the situation. This was anticipated, and we will ensure that we protect the lives and properties of those people who are unfortunately caught up within that unfortunate zone. But I would expect us to use same energy, even more, in condemning this kind of lawless act, especially when we started. What we witnessed in the morning had to do with slapping. In some cases, that was the most severe we witnessed, or in headbutting. That was it. Now we are dealing with gunshots. And that is the reason why, even as politicians, we must demonstrate that responsibility. When Hawa Koomson led tax and they killed one of the NDC sympathizers in the last election, we were quiet as a republic. We went mute on it. One of them has been maimed. An NDC constituency secretary died because of the brutalities instigated by the Honorable Hawa Koomson. So if you have many of these things etched in the conscience of the people, be rest assured that indirectly you are emboldening the people not to have confidence in our electoral process and to try to take the laws into their own hands. And that is the challenge the NDC is having to deal with now in government, because we are at a crossroad. We are bestriding a threshold. On one hand, we have the responsibility of fulfilling the aspirations of our supporters. And on another hand, we are entrusted with the responsibility of ensuring peace and security in the country. So, and I can say that we are doing it so beautifully for now. But the reality is that let us not make the work difficult for ourselves as politicians. Because there would undoubtedly be members of the NDC who will not understand why Dr. Omane Boama or Muntaka Mubarak would be using the police or army to ensure their arrest. Because they feel that their party is in power. But I know the government we are dealing with. I know the president who is in charge, and I can say with certainty and confidence that when it comes to upholding the rule of law, he does so without being concerned about partisan coloration. But as political actors, we ourselves must demonstrate that responsibility in our public utterances and engagement. And that was what Hawa Koomson lacked.
Indeed, Hamza, let's go have some updates. But before I hand over to the gentleman on the magic wall, I do want to say again that per the reports we have received, our reporter tells us that there have been what appears to be sporadic gunshots. And that's because she's unable to confirm at this point whether or not those sounds are coming from a gun or guns or actual gunshot sounds. But it was enough to disperse the crowd that was there at the time. She also tells us that it's unclear why it is being heard wherever she is at the Radiant Way Preparatory School. And that's because they all had to seek shelter upon hearing it. She will let us know what happened in terms of whether or not those were actual gunshots, sounds that she heard, and who or why that took place as well. When we come back on this side, we'll go over to Zoom and pick thoughts from our professors joining us remotely. In the meantime, gentlemen, we're hearing that we have some 3 more polling station results coming in, or is it 4?
In fact, not more than that. We have just 3 polling station results outstanding. We have 16 out of the 19 polling station results captured on our magic wall right behind us. So follow us closely. Joseph, how does the picture look like?
I mean, earlier when we gave you the story, we told you that the NDC candidate was leading by 164. At the time, we had results for 11 stations. We now have results for 16. And she has extended the lead from 164 to 210.
Interesting.
164 to 210.
Let's stay on this
3
figure.
stations outstanding.
Let's stay on this figure, 210. That is what the NDC's Irabna Albin is leading with.
Yeah.
You recall that the evolution from 11 to 16 was very interesting.
Yeah.
After the
time we got to 15, yes. Interestingly, the gap had gone down.
To 96.
Yes. But when we added the 16th station to it, then it changed the mathematics for us and now resulted in the 210. And so that is why it is important to emphasize at every point in time that it depends on what stations the results are coming from and what the numbers look like, whether it looks like what is happening already in the past or whether it's taking a different form, and that will determine what is going to happen. Now we know the 3 stations that we don't have the results for at this point in time.
What are those?
And so there's the Presby Church, Odoko, number 4, the Pentecost Church, number 2, and the Pentecost Church, Tweneboa. What we are going to do is that we're going to stay here a bit. We'll go to Kemini. When we return from Kemini, I'm going to now take you to those 3 stations and tell you the total registered voters from those 3 stations and put it side by side by the results that we have so far. But the point that we have to emphasize is that what we did indicate when we were at 11 was about the fact that Irabna Albin's path to victory is to maintain her performance, because we know that the voter turnout will remain the same. And she has been able to do that so far with 3 stations left to go. She's leading by 210 votes, with the MPP's Nana Ekuye-Free trailing there. The 3 stations, I must emphasize, what I'm looking at so far, there are lots of votes there. When we go to the desk and come back, I'll go through those numbers for you as well.
But whether or not those lots of eligible voters there would have an impact or a difference clearly is dependent on the voter turnout.
Absolutely.
As to whether these numbers we're seeing there matches the numbers who turn out to vote today. It's a very, very
so far we are not nearing 50%. So far we are not doing 50% for the various stations. We are doing under 50%. And so that will tell you that if Nana Ekuye-Free wants to change the dynamics as things are playing out now, she needs to put up a super performance in those 3 outstanding stations.
And if those 3 actually fall within the demographic of the NPP stronghold in that constituency as well. So that's instructive. But it's also very important to put into context that this is the first time since the constituency was created that the NDC, any NDC candidate has crossed the 30,000 nominal figure value for a candidate in any parliamentary election in the Ablekuma North constituency. This is the first time. In fact, let's backtrack into 2016 when Nana Ekuye-Free contested as the MP and she won. Yeah. She won in 2016 with over 54,000 of the valid vote cast as against Sally Amaki of the NDC at the time, who polled just 26,813. Fast forward to 2020, Sheila Bartels, who defeated Nana Ekuye-Free at the primaries, then won the constituency with same margin, 54,000 and over. And then the NDC candidate, Winifred Mensah at the time, won with 20. In fact, she lost to 29,704. So this is the first time we have seen any candidate of the NDC in Ablekuma North cross the 30,000 mark.
And you know, those who will respond to you by saying that, well, this one is because we are voting 19 and the voter turnout is poor. You know what you have to point them to is the fact that the MPP's own report in terms of the outcome of the initial elections plus the 19, they said they were leading by around
414.
So that actually tells you that the constituency, like other constituencies that we saw turn around, like Domeko Abenya, generally their vote performance was very poor. And so, yes, we can attribute what is happening to the turnout, but it also tells you that the constituency was behaving like other constituencies. And so we are building up closely to the final 19 that we need, and we are going to have some more confirmation coming from at the Electoral Commission Collation Center where that collation is taking place, Alfred?
Absolutely, and that's where we're going right now. Judith Brown is our colleague on the ground at the Constituency Collation Center to give us an idea of exactly how things are shaping up as we speak. Judith, what's going on where you are?
EC head office right here in Accra, and if you can see in the feed, of course, a number of police officers are arriving in batches. You can see them driving in with their cars. As we speak, most media houses are still outside of the collation room. We have not been allowed entry by the police service, although we have word that some media houses are in the collation center. We've been speaking to them for hours and they're still not allowing us in. A lot of media houses are still outside awaiting their command to be able to enter the collation center. But as we speak, a lot of people are massing up. We're seeing them come in bit by bit. Some supporters are already here at the collation center, most of them not being allowed entry. You can see the police officer speaking to some of the supporters, party supporters that are trying to enter the collation center. They are being told not to enter. It seems they are a bit of conflicting instructions from the police service, because at the other side of the collation center, that's the entrance, they are not allowing anyone to enter and they are telling everyone to come to the back. They come to the back and they are also being told they cannot enter. And so it seems that a number of people are frustrated, including we media personnel right here at the collation center. You can see them armed. That's the Ghana Police Service. They're armed, they're ready for action. It's past 5 p.m. In fact, it's 6:18 and collation should be beginning very soon, but we're yet to be allowed into the collation center due to what we know, or what they term as orders from above. And so currently, there's still a bit of confusion and frustration from some supporters who are trying to enter the collation center but are not being allowed by the police service. You can see them exchanging words currently. Earlier, some policemen were brought here. Even some policemen who were brought in batches were not allowed to enter earlier, and it's still the situation right here at the collation center. They're finally being allowed to enter after a few minutes of talking and convincing. They don't seem too happy, but they are being allowed entry now, and it seems every car is being stopped, cross-checked, questions asked before they are either allowed entry or not. And so this is the situation right here at the collation center. We do not know when an order would come from above to allow the media personnel in, but as I said earlier, we know that we've heard word of some other media stations that have been allowed in the collation center, and we do not understand why the others, including ourselves, are not being allowed yet. We can see some members from the prisons service, the Ghana Police Service as well. Buses coming in, more cars coming in. And so, we're still here at the collation center. More and more supporters are walking to the entrance. And as of now, no one has been allowed entry. We know this has been a bit of a high-stakes election today, marred with pockets of violence at various polling centers right here. We're currently seeing the prison service being allowed entry.
And Judith Brown there for us. That is the Constituency Coalition Center in the Ablekuma North constituency. She's going to be there for us every step of the way. So stay with us here on your Election Command Center. We're live on 3FM 92.7. That location where Judith Brown is where the action will take place in the next few minutes, and we'll get to know the official declaration of who has won this constituency by the Electoral Commission. So stay with us. We're live there, as you just seen, and you're seeing right now the police is ready in the place. There's heavy security presence. Joseph, for what we're learning right now, it's not just the police that has been deployed there. We have some personnel of the military and also the Ghana Prison Service. So the security arrangement there is crack solid, as we're seeing there in that particular location. That's the Constituency Coalition Center at the Ablekuma North constituency. So stay with us. We have eyes on that constituency constantly to give you updates as it unfolds. But we have some updates for you on our magic wall. The numbers coming in and trickling in thick and fast, and the picture is looking clearer and complete, is it not?
Well, it depends on how you want to look at it, but we're making a point earlier about the importance of knowing which stations are outstanding. True. And that could give you a sense of what we should look out for and whether we should be expectant of a trend emerging. I want to just inform you that one of the outstanding stations has as many as 635 registered voters.
And which station is this?
That is the Pentecost Church Mount Zion Assembly. 635 registered voters. I want you to look up there. Tell me the difference.
The difference that the NDC's Irabna Obeng is leading with, after 17 polling station results out of the 19, is 216. So that's increased from the initial we just put out there. Yeah. So she's increased her margin of victory as at now 17, and the emphasis is on 17 out of the 19 polling stations. Irabna Obeng is leading with a difference of 216 votes. Now, the emphasis that you put in terms of the contextual analysis of that particular polling station, 635. Then I'm also going to backtrack a bit and look at what happened at the Article complex, the school complex. That had a valid vote. That's I
think about 645.
Yeah,
that's the highest.
Of registered voters there. Yeah. That's actually one of the highest. Yeah. There's another one that's higher than Article, right? But look at the voter turnout there. 206 people turn up to vote over there.
So it comes back to the same point that if we are looking at 635, then it means that give or take we may do, if we do very well, we may do maybe 300.
True.
Just to be conservative, 300. We may do 300, which means that you have still 335 votes that will not be accounted for. And let me now give you another information.
Tell me.
The other outstanding station as well, that is the Pentecost, the church, Shenebua 2. There are 412 registered voters there as well.
That's also a high number, is it not?
High number.
It's actually in the first top 10.
The top 10. It's part of the top 10 as well.
In terms of the numbers in that constituency.
And so the fact of the matter is that there are enough votes in terms of registered voters in those two centers to overturn 216. But the point that you keep reminding all of us is about the fact that the turnout. And so if we are looking at the conservative number of maybe 300, they do very well. 300 show up to vote. And the 412, also we say maybe 200 or so turn up to vote. That puts us as well 300.
Absolutely.
It's still enough to overturn.
Yeah, that's important because you see, if the turnout, give or take, and we keep making reference to what we have seen play out at least since the counting and declaration began. Polling stations that had over 600 registered voters, eligible voters to vote. We've seen the highest being 206.
Yeah.
That is at the Article School Complex. Yeah. So if there's anything to go by, look, we just have to put matters, juxtapose what we have seen with what we are yet to see. The two polling stations, let's put it on record, have enough eligible voters to overturn this 216 votes that the NDC's Irabna Obeng is leading with. But all of that depends on how many people came out to vote. But these two polling stations, shortly, we're going to get the results because we understand the sorting is almost done. Yeah. In these two polling stations, outstanding. So we're going to get the full picture shortly to give you an idea. And just to put it on record as well, that what we're telling you are all the provisional
results.
Provisional.
Yes.
Awaiting the Electoral Commission's official declaration. The provisional results, as we are putting out on this dashboard, gives us the provisional picture. Awaiting the Electoral Commission's official declaration of who the MP-elect is for the Ablekuma North constituency.
And the emphasis is that the two outstanding stations, they have more than enough votes to turn around the margin. But
absolutely,
we are saying that that is a conservative extrapolation to make because of the poor voter turnout that we have seen so far. And so the path to victory still remains the same. We expect that Arabna Orbin, if she wants to win, she has to perform in a similar manner as she has been performing so far. Nana Ekwe-Free, she tends to improve in some centers, and in some areas too, she's not doing too well. So a bit of inconsistency in her performance. And so if she wants to double up and turn things around with those two centers, then she has to have a bit more of a great, consistent performance. And so the message that we are putting across to Kemini and the team at the other side is that, look, well, things are looking the way they are looking. 17, the NDC is leading by 216 votes. Two stations outstanding. The two stations, the numbers there, registered voters, the first station has 635. The second station has 412. But it all boils down to the turnout once again.
And the numbers are going to come down as we speak. But then again, based on the historical context as we've seen, I referenced what happened in 2016 and 2020. And I also just got this derivative that also paints a certain picture that even prior to today, after the pre-coalition yesterday by the Electoral Commission, Arabna Orbin had already crossed the 30,000 mark.
Yes.
She came into today with 32,464. As against an Ekwe-Free with
who was nowhere near the 50, 40,000, depending on the performance that the MPP generally puts out there.
Absolutely.
And so even if you go by the MPP's own narrative of about 400 votes, the fact of the matter is that the NDC had improved its performance in December in this particular constituency.
And it also stands to reason that whoever is going to win this constituency at the end of the day, in the next few hours, maybe the next 30, 45 minutes, or maybe an hour ahead of us, is going to win with just a slim margin. That's without contest. The slim margin of victory.
I don't think any of them will mind.
Absolutely.
A victory is
even
a
if
victory.
it's just one or two.
A victory is a victory.
Absolutely.
A victory is a victory.
Absolutely. Kemini, this clearly tells a picture, is it not?
We are now waiting on the two Pentecost churches, right?
Yeah.
Pentecost Church, Mount Zion Assembly.
Yes.
And then Pentecost Church, Trinidad.
Number two. 412 votes there.
The churches will be deciding tonight.
Absolutely. Church of Pentecost.
But I mean, I see where this is going. I wonder what Eben thinks, right? Because from the trend that you have shown us, 635 on 412, large number, right?
But the voter turnout, is the big problem.
I know, but you saw the same situation with the polling station that has 645, right?
Complex.
The Article polling station. We saw what the trend of 30%, how it went, right? Arabna got 124 thereabout, and then Ekwe-Free got 77. And so if that trend is to follow for the 412-635, the two Pentecost churches, we are looking at a night for Arabna.
That is all
projection,
things being equal.
right?
All things being equal, yeah.
All things being equal.
And that's why I was making a point earlier, Alfred and Kemini, about how inconsistent Nana Ekwe-Free's performance has been so far. I mean, when we started at 11, when we got to 14, she had improved her numbers, and that of the NDC candidate had actually dropped. But when we just add one more station, her performance just went back to the trend before. And so it's that inconsistent performance that is playing out by the way of the numbers.
At 15 polling stations, Kemini, we saw a difference of 94.
Yeah.
Down
the previous
from
she had closed in the margin.
64, yeah.
Absolutely. So then we inched it up to the 17 polling station results. Now we're seeing some 216. That tells you a story, is it not? Look at the trends from 11 to 15 and now 17.
You know, and I wonder what Eben thinks about this, because remember Eben at the beginning had said his personal projections were that it was going to be a toss-up. It could go any other way. But with what we are seeing now, the question is, does Ekwe-Free have an actual pathway to winning?
Yes.
And how easy would it be for her to flip it?
Yes, she does, but it will be very difficult. And because she is swimming against the tide of the turnout and her own inconsistent performance, And I mean, the political analysts have already attributed the turnout mainly to the MPP's own conduct by way of whether to participate in this particular election or not. And so, if she has anything to do, and you earlier made the point that she was appealing to people to come out.
Absolutely, that's around 1:30 p.m.
Yeah.
But as to how her inconsistent performance we have seen can be directly connected to the party's own inconsistent position.
Yeah.
As well as one to look out
I would not say that, because then again, you have taken us through the historical trend.
Absolutely.
We've looked at 2012, 2016, 2024, 2020 and 2024.
Absolutely.
And we've seen clearly that the MPP numbers have been going down. It's not doing well.
True. But if you look at 2016, she won with higher numbers as against Sheila Batells, but within the same 56,000.
Yeah.
She won with 56,484 thereabout. Sheila Batells won with the same 56,000 and 14. So there was just a slight drop in the nominal figures when it comes to the victory for the MPP in that constituency in the 2020 elections. Fast forward to 2024, clearly, even if we're going with the narrative of the MPP that they won in 2024, December 7, with 414 votes difference, it tells you that the NDC closed the gap so much.
Significantly.
And that much that for the first time, we have seen their candidate go beyond the 30,000 mark to now inching towards 35,000. That's instructive because it paints a different picture from the trends that we have seen right from 1996 up until now. The highest that we saw the NDC put up a performance in this Ablekuma North constituency was about 38% in 2012. That's the highest they had come prior to 2024. Now we are seeing this particular performance. And you recall Musa Dankwa put this Ablekuma North constituency in the same bracket as the Dom Kwabenya constituency. High numbers when it comes to registered voters, and that we saw what happened in the Dom Kwabenya constituency. There was a flip, but with a very, very narrow margin of victory as well, which was contested. But then again, the Electoral Commission stood on their grounds on what happened there.
You know, one thing I'm curious about, I would want to see the voter turnout today put together with that of December 7, 2024, so that we compare to the historical trends in terms of Ablekuma North and the general national average as well, so that we can safely decide whether the general outcome is simply because people did not show up to vote in that particular constituency, where sometimes they tend to show up in their numbers or not. And that would explain to us what is happening to the fortunes of the NPP. But definitely, the NPP as a party at this point in time, looking at two being outstanding and knowing the numbers from there and the possibility of what the turnout could be, should not be too happy this evening.
And the question is, just for the benefit of analysis, if the party doesn't win, the MPP doesn't win, will the national executives of the party wholly take blame for this because of their earlier position of not contesting in this election as a party? That's the question, because as we speak, we have not seen any of the national executives of the party, that's the MPP, on the ground. We've seen some bigwigs of the party, and there. Yesterday, Kennedy Japan was there. A number of the flag bearer hopefuls thronged the place. In fact, we saw as well Brian Champon as well, he was there with the likes of Dennis Miracles Abuaje when they addressed the press earlier today. But we haven't seen any national executive. But for the NDC, we've seen Fifi Afikwete and the others there. We understand a couple of days ago, the chairman was there as well, Johnson Esedun Ketia. So that's the narrative that you also want to look at in terms of the analysis as to how things play out, especially for the MPP. Kevin?
Absolutely, and those are fair questions you ask of the executives of the NPP, because winning the election falls squarely at their doorstep. But as we have seen, they have shown a disinterest in this, except for the candidates running in this rerun election. Let's take what we have seen so far, and Eben, I'll come to you, but let's take it so far to Zoom. The two professors are over Zoom, Professor Enoch Bèãťěñ and Professor Smart Sapon. Prof. Smart Sapon, I'll start with you. Very salient question that Alfred has asked, that should this night go against a queer, a free year, who is to blame?
And I will not rule out the boycott by the party. But, I mean, it will also be, maybe the tides have changed in favor of my sister Rabna. In terms of campaign messaging, she would have very little work to do because the performance of the government will speak for for her. And usually the wave of electorates would go in favor of the one who is in government. There is this balance that will say that as we speak now, Rabna's government is in power, and they may feel strongly that, judging the situation, Rabna perhaps may be the one that may bring something home because she has a government in power. Again, what may work for Rabna would be because, I mean, like I said, generally, campaign messaging is all, and generally those things would have gone in her favor. As for the NPP candidate, yeah, she knew from day one that she needed to do her best under the circumstance because largely it was going to favor Rabna. And what perhaps might have worsened her case would be the boycott from her party. I was thinking that, yes, the initial boycott was because they were going to pursue the situation in court. But right after court's ruling, I was expecting a turnaround to say, yes, we wanted to boycott because of A, B, and C, but court says we should go. So all MPP people rise up, let's go to Abrikumanov or so ever. So that would have added something to the turnout at least, and would have perhaps brought us to a different picture, even though, like I said earlier, the tide was going to favor Rabna more than Nanekuya. But I mean, we can't rule out the boycott by the party. I am advising that as a political party, you are an election-ridden machine. Parties should bear that one in mind. There shouldn't be elections that you would opt to participate or opt to boycott under no circumstance. There are some historians who say that the decision by the NPP to boycott 1992 was bad, even though some have said it is good. But, I mean, taking into account those who said it was bad, perhaps they have a point. Perhaps the party would have been more active in the 90s than it became in the early 2000s and in recent times. So as for me, my advice would be that if you are an election-ridden machine, a political party of the stature of the NPP, under no circumstance should you choose the option of boycott of an election. After all, that's what you exist for. It is.
Well, it would appear we lost that connection to Prof. I do hope that I have Professor Enoch Bèãťěñ on. Because, Prof, I want to ask you, should it happen that in the next hour or so there is an announcement that endorses our projection that indeed Ekuye-Friyeh lost the election?
It's not only about the outcome or the going to be, but it gives you an opportunity to awaken them.
Indeed, Prof. It seems you are in and out of the connection for some...
What it means is that they would have needed this as a dress rehearsal for Akwetia. And unfortunately, they kind of missed it. So my advice, don't pull out of elections, irrespective of the likely outcome. You can use it as a dress rehearsal and activate the party. I think that will be my advice to the NPP.
Very well. Professor Bèãťěñ, I'll bring you in now, and I'll go back to the question I was asking earlier about whether or not, if indeed tonight Ekuye-Friyeh loses, it further complicates the already shaky pedestal or shaky table that the executive sits at this time. Remember that the executives, there have been calls for an overhaul of the executive structure of the MPP for the 2024 election. Now, should this be a loss by the time the Electoral Commission announces official figures, is it likely, or does it have the ability to further complicate the situation at hand for the NPP executives? Oh, it would appear to have lost him there. Professor Smasapo, I'll come back to you so you have a bite of this. But let's get into the studio now and speak to my guests who are here. Richard, I'll start off with you. What do you think?
Now, I think if the projections we are seeing and from the numbers we are seeing, Rabna wins, then that complicates the case for the national executives of the MPP. I think they have let her down. Knowing what I know and from what I know from last week, yesterday, I think Equia is on the weaker side, and their support massively as a political party would have helped her. But they left her in the open, and rather than going there to cause problems for her, which also affected people who willingly would have loved to vote for her, the problems in the morning did also not help her cause. And I think that NPP as a political party, they will need to wake up. In various departments of the NPP party, they are not doing properly. In terms of skill set, in terms of ingenuity, in terms of mobilization, in terms of planning, they will need to wake up and do far better. A survey has been done, and today, in almost all skill setup, the ratio between NDC to NPP is 4:1. So I'm not surprised the likes of Patrick Boama and co are saying that when you look at the national executives of the NDC, they are far ahead of those of the NPP. They will need to wake up to their responsibility and catch up. Other than that, they are becoming the weaker party, and it's not going to serve them right going forward.
I see, Hamza. I can imagine that there's jubilation in your camp already. We have seen videos of the shouting and a lot of happiness. I'm not surprised because you've told us that based on your projections, you have won already.
Absolutely.
At this time, we are waiting for 2 more polling stations and an official announcement from the Electoral Commission. But you know, as we look at how the election is gone, the comments that have been passed, do you think that the flip-flopping of the NPP makes this easier for you?
You see, first of all, I'm sure that as a government, we have sent the right signals to a point that the people of Ablekumanov are more than willing to share in the glory of the new government. And so going with the NDC's choice clearly puts them in an advantage in terms of their willingness to use her as an important person when it comes to lobbying for developmental projects into their community. So clearly, that gave us some kind of comfort in that regard. You also cannot simply take away the 8 years of bad governance that the NPP subjected this country to. And knowing Ablekumanov area and how industrious when it comes to the local economic dynamics, I'm sure they were part of the communities that actually felt the bad economic policies of the last administration, and they are still living it. One would expect that they can demonstrate their rejection of the NPP in so many ways, which includes failing to come out to vote, or in most cases also turning out to vote against the NPP's candidate. You can rule that factor out as well. But it would be unfair to intellectual analysis for me to discount the flip-flopping of the New Patriotic Party, since the EC declared that we needed to go back for every round as far as these 19 polling stations are concerned. That undoubtedly contributed. And I have always maintained that this is not the first time we are having to deal with the effects of incompetence of the New Patriotic Party, not just at the governance level when it comes to the executive power that was being wielded by His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, even at the party level. So if they are concerned about the future of the political party, NPP, this is the time for the party to begin to look at ways to effect changes at the national level. Because this leadership undoubtedly has failed the New Patriotic Party. It has failed to provide direction. And unfortunately, they also have a flag bearer in the last election who is not living up to expectation in terms of providing that complementary efforts of leadership. Because anytime you have a weak political party, you should be able to rely on the resilience and ability of your flag bearer. Why do
you say that he hasn't shown leadership? Because post the election, we have seen him try to engage in party activities. In fact, quite a bit more than we've seen.
Engaging in party activities is not the same thing as showing leadership.
He came to the front and center during the Chairman Wontumi incidents. We've seen him make donations to, in fact, this candidate, 410 other donations.
That is not how you take charge, because there are many other candidates who are running to be presidential candidates of the New Patriotic Party who have done similar things. Nana Addo's experience should not be lost on you. His Excellency, the late President Mills, when he took over the National Democratic Congress, and the kind of influence he exhibited in terms of control should not be lost on you, even when we had His Excellency President Jerry John Rawlings still alive.
So what should he have been doing that would have shown you leadership?
It is about credibility.
Okay.
And the willingness of even your support base to respect your word. But if for years you have failed to carve out yourself in that niche, and unfortunately comes across as a person that cannot be trusted, even within your political party, that authority would be missing because your support base would be unwilling to give the necessary attention to even words you churn out. So that optics was crucial, not just as a sitting vice president, but even for days like this in opposition, when you have a weak political party and the party itself needs to rely on the strength of its leader or former leader to be able to come to terms with realities and make the needed changes. Unfortunately, that is where the MPP is.
But
they have
Hamza,
a very weak political party.
If it's about the optics, then we'll say that the former vice president, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, is doing quite well with optics than we have seen him ever. Because he's appearing wherever the news is and it's against the MPP.
That is what I'm...
hang on. We are talking about optics. So if it is about optics, then he's doing what the optics expect him to do. He's showing up when a member of the party needs help. He's showing up to support campaigns. He's showing up in places where MPP youth are to engage with the youth. Perhaps his leadership style is to show the members of the party that I care. So it will be unfair to say that he's not showing leadership.
He is not showing leadership. You see,
no, hold on 1 second.
No, please, let me respond.
Let me respond.
Let me respond to her. You see, first of all, I have made the point that when it comes to leadership, it's not just about showing up places and making donations or associating with political party operatives. No, it goes beyond that. And I gave you examples of how Nanado took charge, demonstrated that leadership. I've given you examples of how President Mahama did it in opposition. I gave you examples of how President Mills did so. It was not about going about making donations. When it even comes to the donations, I can tell you that at least Branda Champon beats him to that. Kennedy Ajapon beats him to that. Because even when the regional chairman, Wuntimi was behind Iyoko, it had to take the effort of Branda Champon to secure the bill and get the gentleman out.
But remember also he was the only member of the party.
I am talking about, and you see, the reality also is that I think that the NPP itself is finding it difficult to accept the fact that Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, for now, is the face of the New Patriotic Party. And the reality we cautioned some years ago about the fact that if care is not taken, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia at a point in time will be treated as a stranger in the New Patriotic Party is what seems to be playing out.
Let's come back to the election.
We should not concentrate on the activities, but the point I'm simply making is that, Kemini, this is a party that needs to go back to the drawing board. This is a party that needs to ensure that they reorganize themselves in such a way that they become competent in terms of their role expected of them in opposition. Because as a government, we would want a very strong opposition party because that is the only way that they can police the activities of this government, the policies of this government, and make meaningful contributions in line with the constitutional responsibilities placed on them as a political party. Because as a political party, they benefit from certain privileges under the Constitution. The least we expect of them is to be able to organize themselves, put themselves in a way that even in opposition, they can be seen as contributing positively to the developmental efforts of this country. It is not the interest of this government, it is not the interest of the National Democratic Congress to run a government without checks. And we know that the NPP is indispensable when it comes to providing those checks. And as Democrats, especially as the front bearers of this fourth Republican democracy, it is in our interest to ensure that the NPP becomes that legitimate opposition party positioned to keep even the NDC in check in case we are going outside the expected democratic principles. But unfortunately, they are not just failing themselves in opposition, they are failing the Republic of Ghana by their conduct. And that is the reason why there's the need for changes to be made at the NPP head office. There's the need, even in the front bench of Parliament, that the NPP makes certain changes because we are still having to deal with the effects of the bad leadership choices of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in the last 8 years. Because many of these guys are people who have sworn loyalty to His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. The MPP needs to break away from that past and come to the realization that these are new times and they must act accordingly to reflect the season.
You're still here on our continuing coverage of the Ablekuma North Parliamentary rerun elections. You have your time. Hang on. You have your time, Richard. You have your time. It's still a live and continuing coverage of the Ablekuma North rerun parliamentary elections. We are still waiting for 2 more polling stations to be announced: the Pentecost Church Mount Zion Assembly and the Pentecost Church Trinidad polling station number 2. And so far, our projections here, the gentlemen on the magic wall have told us that it puts Irabna Obin, the NDC candidate, in the lead with over 200 points. There is still, based on the projections that we brought you, there is still a pathway for Nanekwi Afriye, the NPP candidate. But how big is this pathway? How easy is this pathway? I'll take that conversation to Eben now. Eben, is it likely at this time that Nanekwi could flip this?
It's very difficult. Okay, it's difficult because I think people have not taken their time to look at the shifting dynamics in politics in Ghana. If you were a student of data and you study the 2024 elections, there's a reorganization of affiliations in the country. And not just for this election, irrespective of who wins, the NPP has one big problem going forward. And the problem is that they have a greater Accra problem. And it started from the year 2020. And you could see from the data that from 2020, the region and bloc has decided to shift away or move away from the NPP towards the NDC. And that realignment of constituencies, that is what we are seeing. And so I would like to everybody to understand that the constituencies are shifting, the region as a whole is moving towards the NDC, and I think the NPP, it is time for them to realize that the region as a whole is not as solidly behind them as it used to. So, for example, take the Ablekuma enclave. Historically, it was split. The North and the West were historically voting for the NPP. And then the Central and the South were voting for the NDC. Now, Ablekuma West is gone. Now, should Ablekuma North goes, it means that all the 4 constituencies within the Ablekuma enclave they have moved away from the NPP. And it is not only that. If you take the 2024 elections, the Greater Accra as a region swung to the NDC on average by 14 points. Okay. In 2020, Sheila Bettles got...
Kufo NPP penny. Enti NPP wasun koko kwama nyoko penny. Ena chese ejija chesesisi akra de obi apom pese oba association ne ho kra edi aka NPP ho ewiase mum yanka na emobo na awre ho nso sisi ayehwe de niam akwa atim se NDC for eyade sisi adom wontini pass oba blekuma because ablekuma west kra na ya mama osoro usutimi lucy ni kra no kra was ekira say because na osoro suno ni okasa o say da bia o so no de woni ablekuma west de agisi wo pe e na betete omienu nta because oma ware na afia ware no na wo ni ma na divorce atimi aba prematurely dia na tese otum se bibi esiye pa na wo hwe de bia resource ne kwa ehu na NDC TV facility we dia na tese parliament ho de ya papa fenyo markets be dey sisi na isi press conference no na beba bebre ni nyina no ade papa akompre kwa Japan ka kire mu wo ka kire mu se nyama eko no NPP animu guase etimpanifo mo party mu nya bibi mfa ho na mo sorry ti ano na mo kan sembone de fa ne ho be cho the 10 cents of Japan ene so obi ahu na wieye abusu aha na dumbesi we are for Ken TV so enya me ya adomo a otsena yegusu gire na so be ba life biom na after resource no de eba ye de ko otwi ko be ma nyina de be ko fio de ho ankasa ye be ko abrekuma nof ene enkofo wo ho no mo akodi nkomo ne abusu am se edianti enna omotoma party eti abusu ya me ya adomo a otsena eni ameje so ene akua intiriwa makra